All right, let's talk evidence as part of the argument writing unit. Let's get started. So before we talk about evidence, let's talk claim. So when we are referring to a claim in argumentative writing, this is your opinion. That is a matter of personal experiences and values that must be backed up with your evidence. So it can be debatable. So other people can disagree with your claim. And that's why you're providing evidence. This is totally important, which is why I have it in orange. When you're writing a strong claim, do not, I repeat, do not use I think or I believe or anything similar to that. We want to make sure that you begin as a strong writer, you begin your essay with an unyielding stance. So this is a strong stance that you are going to take, a strong claim. Because if you start with a strong claim, then that's going to, in part, grab your reader's attention and make them look forward to reading what evidence you have to back up your claim. So I want you to take a look here. Which claim is the strongest? So choose A, B, C, or D. Again, you want to make sure that you're starting with a strong claim because that will make your reader want to continue reading and look forward to reading what evidence you have to back up your claim. So let's talk about what you chose. So I see two here, B and D, that start with I believe, I think, no. Again, not very strong. This could easily, someone could easily come back with a rebuttal with that. And let's look at letter A. NSYNC is a better boy band than the Backstreet Boys. So this is just straight to the point, coming out with your opinion. Letter C, they sold millions more records. Well, we don't know who they is. A lot of students start with they, he, she. Well, we don't know who that is. It's not really a claim. So we're going with A. Hopefully you chose A. All right, so when we talk evidence, there are two types that we're going to focus on. The first one being anecdotal, the second factual. So if we look up here, anecdotal evidence is based on personal observation and experience. It is often in the form of a brief story, anecdote, and it can come from the writer. It can come from friends' experiences, family stories. This can also be from information from acquaintances, or if you've done an interview, information from that interview. When we talk factual evidence, this is based on numbers, data, confirmed facts. The research is performed by experts such as scientists, doctors, educators, people who've done the research and can provide their sources. Maybe they have actually done the study, and then this information is easily found by the writer. There are sources that can prove the confirmed facts. Let's talk about primary and secondary sources here. Primary sources are sources that have been written by the people who have actually experienced the events. So examples of primary sources would include letters, diaries, journals that have recorded what they've experienced in history, speeches, eyewitness interviews, oral histories, so passing down histories by word of mouth, memoirs, those personal experience and autobiographies. Secondary sources are based on information that is gathered from those primary sources. So examples of these would include encyclopedia articles, newspaper, magazine articles, articles based on those historic events, biographies, documentaries, history books, textbooks. Okay, we very often use secondary sources to do our research. So primary sources come from those people who have experienced firsthand that moment or that event. Secondary sources are information gathered from those primary sources. All right, moving on. So how do we identify the sources? So here's some checklists that we can use. So in order to differentiate or decide between a primary and secondary source, we can do the following. So we want to take note of the title, the author, and the date of publication. We want to identify the genre. Does it come from a letter, a diary, speeches, interviews, autobiographies, or does it come from encyclopedia articles, newspaper articles? We're going to focus on, in our research, secondary sources. These are going to be from articles, biographies, textbooks. If the source meets one or more of the following criteria, then it's considered primary. So if it's a first-hand account, someone has been there, experienced it, and if the writing takes place during that time period. Okay, so this is not really going to be what we're looking at this time, but it's important to understand these different sources. If the source meets one or more of the following criteria, it is secondary source. So the writing analyzes those primary sources. So that's basically what we're going to be looking at, that someone has analyzed or studied someone's experience. A secondhand account of the event, so we're reporting what has happened, or writing that interprets or analyzes creative work. So this is important to understand in all areas of writing, which is why we're covering this. Let's talk about citing our sources, because a lot of us struggle with this, and we're going to learn the appropriate way to cite our sources. So what does it mean when I say, or another teacher says, or someone says, to cite a source? Okay, we're going to do it in two different ways. The first is called an in-text citation, and this is a note in the essay, so within your paragraph, that tells the reader where a piece of information or an idea has come from. You're going to see in-text citations in parentheses, and this is where you're going to see the author's last name and the page number. At the end of the essay, you're going to include a list of your works that you've cited, and this is going to be in the form of a list, and I'll go into more detail about that later. So you're going to have two places where we can go to check out your sources: inside your text, and then at the very end on your works cited page. So why do writers cite their sources? Number one, to avoid plagiarism, which is the practice of taking someone else's work or ideas and passing them off as your own. You do not want to do that. You don't want to get in the habit of doing that. It's easy. As teachers, we can easily identify when you've plagiarized, so just don't do it. You want to be able to prove that the evidence that you found is real and that it's credible, because that's going to only make your claim stronger. And then lastly, we cite our sources to inform the reader about where to find more information on the topic if they want to do more research. Simple as that. So what gets cited? So quoted information from a secondary source, so any article, anything that you read that you take word for word, this needs to get cited. Anything that you've paraphrased, so you've put into your own words based on what you're reading, that gets cited. Any information that you've obtained from an interview, and really something that encompasses everything, an idea that is not your own. So words that are not your own and ideas that are not your own. Okay, so how do I cite a source? You're going to insert the in-text citation before the period at the end of the sentence in which the quotation or paraphrase appears. So this is important. For any in-text citation, include the first item that appears in the works cited entry that corresponds to the citation. So this is going to be the author's last name. If we don't know the author's last name, it will be the article name. If we don't know the title of the article, then it will be the website name. Or magazine, wherever you got that article from. You're going to take a look at the examples that I have for you next. So here's what needs to be included at the end of your essay in the works cited for every article that you read. Number 1, the article's author. Last name is first, and then first name separated by a comma. The title of the article is in quotation marks. Then you have the magazine or newspaper title in italics. We need the date of the publication of that magazine or article, the page number, and then what medium. Did you find it in print? Did you find it digitally? Was it on a website? So here's an example. So this is what it would look like in text, so in a paragraph. A study has revealed that eating school lunches is a contributor to childhood obesity. So you see before the period, because it's part of the sentence, I am giving credit to, here's the last name of my author and the page number. I've paraphrased this, which is why it's not in quotation marks. And then here's what it would look like in my works cited page on the last page of my essay. So I have Melnick, Meredith. This is the author. Here's the title in quotation marks, Is School Lunch Making Your Kids Fat? This comes from Time Magazine in italics. The date, when we are citing the actual day, the 7th comes first of February. Here's the year, 2011. Okay. This is the 28th magazine of the year, and it is in print form. Okay, let's take a look at more examples. Hold on, there's kids out in the hallway. They're being loud. All right, so if we're using, hold on, sorry. So when we are citing a website on our works cited page, we need to include the author and or the editor names if they are available. Again, last name comes first and then first name with a comma in the middle. Then we need the article name in quotation marks if we know what the article title is. Then we need the title of the website, the name of the institution or organization that has published the website, date of the resource that was created, and then the date that you accessed the material. So this is important to remember. For websites and pages, remember to use NP if there's no publisher name, and ND if there's no publishing date that is given, okay? Let's look at the next slide here. So it would look like this. If we didn't have an author from our website, here's what it would look like in citation, in text citation. The National School Lunch Program has existed since 1946 and provides, here's the quoted part, word for word what it says, provides nationally balanced, low cost or free lunches to children each school day. So I'm just putting the quoted title of the article because that's all I have. So I may not have an author, but I do have the title, and that's what I'm going to put in my parentheses. The period comes after. So here's what it will look like typed out on the last page of my essay. So I have my title in quotation marks. I have the title of the website. This is the organization that runs the website, the United States Department of Agriculture. Here's when the information was published, the 21st of February in 2012. It comes from the web, excuse me, and it was accessed on the 6th of May, 2011. Now you'll notice that the access date is earlier than the published date. Oftentimes, websites will be updated. So this is when it was last updated. Okay.